Resident Evil has been through the ringer a number of times. It started out as an excellent survival horror series that eventually got convoluted and oversaturated. Now, Capcom got things back on track with RE4, and then they leaned a little too hard into the action side and they drove people away. Then they got things back on track again a second time with Resident Evil 7, and have kept that winning streak going with RE2, the remake, and not as good but still good RE3. Now, the latest mainline game in the series was Resident Evil Village, or RE8. And with an RE4 remake in development, fans want to know what's happening after this. Welcome to VideoGameLeaks, everybody. Today, we are going over Resident Evil 9 leaks. That's right. RE8 certainly pulled influence from the classic RE4, and while a lot of people saw it as a step down from RE7, it was a really good horror game, and certainly upper tier in the terms of overall Resident Evil as a franchise. So, what's next? RE4, we got the remake, and then what? Well, huge leak. Huge leak that will shed some light on the future of the franchise. Good and bad, to be honest. And the other day, an anonymous leaker on 4chan dropped a huge list of information about the upcoming 9th Resident Evil game, and with how detailed some of this stuff is, I may actually believe it. Now, I've said before, the most believable leaks are the ones with a ton of really specific information. And while 4chan isn't always the most reliable place to get your gaming information, this leak does seem a little more legit than others, or at least there was more effort put into it. Take it all with a grain of salt because it's all subject to change. You guys know the drill, and it might not even be real in the first place. But in this video, we're going to go everything we know about RE9. And make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications turned on. So the leak starts out by telling us what the working title would be for RE9. You have 3 seconds to guess. What do you think it'll be in the comment section? 1, 2, 3. Resident Evil Apocalypse. Frankly, I'm not sure if they're going to keep that because there's already a movie called Resident Evil Apocalypse, but then again, Capcom has never been very considerate with titles or numbering, so you never know. The setting is reportedly a ghost town in the West where a certain investigation takes place, and we should expect to be running through caves, rivers, small towns, camping sites, and if we're about to get Resident Evil Pacific Northwest, I'm 1000% down for that. The leak states enemies will look like some kind of deformed creatures with a huge emphasis on body horror. They'll resemble mythological creatures with horns, and locals will call them Wendigo or Goatmen. Does anybody remember the Wendigos? Do you remember the game that was in? The enemies will even mimic human voices and can transform into friendly NPCs in order to get closer to you. So you're going to have to constantly be on your toes when exploring, but this would also add an extra layer of tension as you lose trust in your companions, kind of like a John Carpenter's The Thing. The leaker says if a monster kills an NPC off screen, they can take their form, and they can try to get closer to you, which will be, that'll be interesting. It will. They specify that the enemies can only steal an NPC's body if the killing happens when the player isn't looking. So you're gonna need to keep a close eye on everything at all times if you want to make sure you're not taken by surprise, which I think that's actually a really awesome idea for a horror game. Now let's talk about the map, the forest map. It's very unsettling, and you'll easily get lost in it if you don't have a map. And the leaker seems to imply that having a map is not a guarantee. Sometimes you'll hear footsteps behind you, but when you turn around, nobody is there, but sometimes there will be a creature there. The leaker also described one of the first bosses, saying its name is Barghest, and it would be a giant black dog with a twist, but said it was less intelligent compared to other monsters in the game, which, that's interesting. Now, with everything we've been talking about, it's honestly starting to sound like Capcom is taking the creepiness factor very serious this time around. One of the best ways to enhance that is by making enemies intelligent. AI that can adapt. When it feels like the game is successfully messing with you and trolling you, that's when it gets really scary. Think why PT was so effective. Think back to Fear. Do you guys remember the AI in the original Fear game? Yeah. Now let's talk about the villain. Well, one of the villains. The main villain would be a woman that the locals call Glastick, but the leaker said her design was very beautiful with green and gold ornaments and a morning green gown. So that we'll see how that goes. Now, when it comes to gameplay, you'll allegedly be able to force open doors, lock them, barricade them, use melee weapons, although they'll all be breakable as well. At one point, you'll receive help from a woman bioweapon named Holder, who will serve as a guide through the town and give you insight on the history of everything that's going on. You can bring her random keys, you can bring her treasures, and she will reward you with little history lessons while also teaching you different herb combinations. So it looks like herbs will play a part in this Resident Evil game. And apparently, the monsters in the game are afraid of Holder in the same way they'd be afraid of the main villain. So basically, this woman is your safe zone, and she'll protect you from harm while you learn about the world you're in and get better equipped for some of the craziness. Now, the plot, it's unclear right now. The leaker says it will be about the 9th moon phase, and the moon will be part of the game's logo. So if you're familiar with urban legends about the woods, or maybe you watch YouTubers like Wendigoon, everything that I've been talking about probably sounds pretty amazing to you, and with how popular those kinds of stories have been getting online in recent years, this makes sense. This is a good direction. This is smart for Capcom. They took note, and it looks like they could be incorporating it into their big horror franchise. Now, the leaker did not give us any release date information or release window. Hopefully we'll get something in the future, and if we do, we'll cover that in a video. But let's just kind of put things together here real quick. RE8 came out last year, and the RE4 remake is next on the schedule. So if I had to predict, I would say we're probably not going to get RE9 till the very, very earliest, maybe holiday 2024, but more than likely, I would say probably 2025. That's just, there's a lot to unpack with it, and that's where it seems to be. But then again, Capcom has really been ramping up their Resident Evil schedule. It's like we're getting a mainline entry, and then we get a remake, and then we get a mainline, and we get a remake. And if they hold to that, then RE4's remake will come, and then we'll get RE9. When they could actually tease it, I'm gonna guess, and you guys, you know the routine, you know the drill. You can come back to this video, we can see how much we got right, how much we got wrong. If there ends up being a moon in the logo, we'll come back and say, we knew it! We knew it! The leaker was right, and we covered this a year and a half ago. Or if we're wrong, well, we'll forget the video even existed. But unpacking all of it, I would say we could probably get a teaser. The way publishers and developers do it now, they tease stuff so late there, or so early in the game. We could probably see an RE9 teaser in 2023. Especially if it dropped late 2024 or sometime in 2025. A teaser next year would be it would be fathomable. It would definitely make sense. So there you go. What do you guys think? Do you like the idea of the AI being able to adapt, being able to kill NPCs and take their form to try to trick you? Do you like the idea of the game messing with you and making you think somebody's there but they're not actually there? Would it add to the atmosphere, the ambiance, the what's the word I'm looking for here? The stress of the situation? Let me know what you guys think about all this. Like I said, take it with a grain of salt, but this is one of those that's pretty detailed, super detailed. So either somebody took a lot of time to make all this up in their head, or they actually have some sources. I'll keep you posted if we get anything new, and I'll see you soon.